The dance of economics: aggregate demand and aggregate supply. Imagine the economy as a vast, intricate dance floor. Aggregate demand and aggregate supply are the partners in this dance. They twirl and sway, their movements determining the rhythm of economic activity. Aggregate demand represents the total demand for goods and services within an economy at a given price level. Aggregate supply, on the other hand, embodies the total supply of goods and services that firms are willing and able to produce at a given price level. The interplay between these two forces dictates the overall health and direction of an economy. When aggregate demand is robust and outpaces aggregate supply, we witness economic growth characterized by increasing production, low unemployment, and upward pressure on prices. Conversely, if aggregate supply surpasses aggregate demand, we may observe stagnation or even recession, marked by declining production, rising unemployment, and downward pressure on prices. Understanding the dynamics of aggregate demand and aggregate supply is crucial for policymakers and economists alike. It allows them to diagnose the current state of the economy, anticipate future trends, and implement policies aimed at promoting sustainable economic growth. Just as a skilled dancer must master the steps to lead and follow, so too must we grasp the intricacies of aggregate demand and supply to navigate the complexities of the economic landscape. Shifting the balance factors influencing aggregate demand. The aggregate demand curve illustrates the inverse relationship between the overall price level and the quantity of goods and services demanded in an economy. As the price level rises, the quantity of goods and services demanded falls, and vice versa. This inverse relationship stems from several factors. First, rising prices erode the purchasing power of consumers. With less purchasing power, consumers are forced to curtail their spending, leading to a decrease in aggregate demand. Second, higher price levels often lead to increased interest rates, which can dampen investment spending by businesses. Higher borrowing costs make it less attractive for businesses to invest in new projects, leading to a decline in aggregate demand. Third, changes in government spending and taxation policies can also influence aggregate demand. Increased government spending, for instance, injects more money into the economy, boosting aggregate demand. Conversely, tax hikes can reduce disposable income and dampen consumer spending, leading to a decrease in aggregate demand. Finally, fluctuations in net exports, the difference between a country's exports and imports, can impact aggregate demand. An increase in net exports, for example, indicates that a country is selling more goods and services to other countries than it is buying, injecting more money into the economy and boosting aggregate demand. Understanding these factors that influence aggregate demand is essential for policymakers to implement appropriate measures to stabilize the economy and promote sustainable growth. The long view, verticality of the long-run aggregate supply curve. In the long run, an economy's ability to produce goods and services is not influenced by the overall price level. Instead, it is determined by the availability and productivity of resources such as labor, capital, natural resources, and technology. The long-run aggregate supply, LRAS curve, illustrates this concept. It is perfectly vertical, indicating that in the long run, changes in the price level do not affect the quantity of goods and services supplied. The vertical nature of the LRAS curve stems from the fact that in the long run, all prices are flexible. Wages, for example, are not sticky in the long run. If the price level rises, wages will eventually adjust upwards as well, negating any impact on the quantity of labor supplied. Similarly, prices of raw materials and other inputs will also adjust to changes in the overall price level over time. This long-run flexibility in prices ensures that the economy will eventually gravitate towards its potential output level, regardless of short-term fluctuations in aggregate demand or supply. The LRAS curve represents this potential output level, the level of output the economy can produce when all resources are fully employed. Factors that shift the LRAS curve are typically long-term structural changes in the economy, such as advancements in technology, improvements in education and infrastructure, or increases in the labor force. These factors enhance the economy's productive capacity, leading to long-term economic growth. Section 4, the short run, why the SRAS curve slopes upwards. In contrast to the long run, the short run aggregate supply, or SRAS curve, is upward sloping. This upward slope suggests that in the short run, the quantity of goods and services supplied increases as the price level rises. This relationship can be attributed to several factors, including sticky wages, sticky prices, and misperceptions about relative prices. Sticky wages refer to the fact that wages do not adjust immediately to changes in the overall price level. Labor contracts, minimum wage laws, and social norms can all contribute to wage stickiness. When the price level rises unexpectedly, firms experience higher revenues while their labor costs remain relatively fixed, at least in the short run. This increased profitability incentivizes firms to increase production, leading to an upward sloping SRAS curve. Sticky prices, similar to sticky wages, refer to the phenomenon where prices of some goods and services do not adjust instantly to changes in the overall price level. Menu costs, which are the costs associated with changing prices, can contribute to price stickiness. For example, restaurants may be hesitant to reprint menus with higher prices if they anticipate the price increase to be temporary. This stickiness in prices can also lead to an upward sloping SRAS curve. Misperceptions theory suggests that firms may misinterpret changes in the overall price level as changes in the relative prices of their products. For instance, if the overall price level rises, a firm may mistakenly believe that the demand for its specific product has increased, leading them to increase production. This misperception, however, is temporary and will eventually be corrected as firms gather more information about the broader price environment. Despite its temporary nature, misperceptions theory contributes to the upward slope of the SRAS curve in the short run. Section 5, shifting sands factors affecting short-run aggregate supply. The short-run aggregate supply, or SRAS curve, unlike the long-run aggregate supply, or LRAS curve, is subject to shifts caused by various factors. One significant factor is changes in expected price levels. If firms anticipate future price increases, they may adjust their production plans accordingly, leading to a shift in the SRAS curve. For instance, if businesses expect higher energy prices in the coming months, they may increase their current production to avoid incurring higher costs later, shifting the SRAS curve to the left. Another factor influencing the SRAS curve is changes in the prices of inputs used in the production process. Increases in the prices of raw materials, energy, or labor directly affect production costs, causing firms to reduce output at any given price level. This results in a leftward shift of the SRAS curve. Conversely, decreases in input prices lower production costs, encouraging firms to increase output and shifting the SRAS curve to the right. Furthermore, government policies can significantly impact the SRAS curve. Taxes on businesses, regulations, and subsidies can either increase or decrease production costs, thereby shifting the SRAS curve. For example, a reduction in corporate taxes can lower production costs and shift the SRAS curve to the right, while increased regulations might have the opposite effect. Finally, technological advancements can significantly influence the SRAS curve. Technological progress often leads to increased productivity, allowing firms to produce more output with the same amount of inputs. This increase in productivity effectively lowers production costs and shifts the SRAS curve to the right. Understanding these factors that can shift the SRAS curve is crucial for policymakers to anticipate and respond to economic fluctuations effectively.